In the depths of the oceans are species that are hundreds of millions of years old. These creatures swam with the dinosaurs and were thought to have gone extinct with them. These creatures remained hidden for 65 million years, only being found as fossils. However, that changed in the late 1930s when a major discovery led to these creatures being dubbed living fossils. Hi, I'm Kit, and this is the story of the coelacanth. The coelacanth, and yes, that word is pronounced coelacanth. The English language is truly a beautiful thing. Is a lobe-finned, bony fish of the genus Latimeria that existed during the Devonian period about 350 million years ago, and scientists believe they had gone extinct with the dinosaurs. But a discovery made in December of 1938 rocked the world of zoology. This is the story of the living fossil. Marjorie Courtenay Latimer was born in 1907 and from an early age had a great love and appreciation for all things natural. In 1931, at the age of 24, Marjorie was hired as the first curator of the East London Museum, which, despite its name, is not located in England. Rather, East London is a port town in South Africa. Go figure. On December 22nd of 1938, Marjorie received a call from Hendrik Goosen, captain of the trawler Nerine, asking her if she would like to come and inspect his most recent haul, which is something that she would regularly do, looking for specimens. So, Marjorie and an assistant took a taxi to the wharf. While examining the catch, Marjorie found the most beautiful fish she had ever seen, and it was nearly 5 feet long. Marjorie would later describe the fish as being pale mauve blue with faint flecks of whitish spots. It had an iridescent silver blue-green sheen all over. It was covered in hard scales, and it had 4 limb-like fins. Marjorie and her assistant took the fish back to the East London Museum, transporting it in a taxi. Marjorie, after being unable to identify the specimen herself, attempted to phone her colleague, professor and ichthyologist J.L.B. Smith, who lived in nearby Grahamstown. After being unable to reach him, she sent him a letter which included a rough sketch of the fish. Over the next couple of weeks, Marjorie would eagerly await a response from Smith. Now, moving forward, we'll be taking a look at letters of correspondence between Marjorie and Smith. And there is overlap between when letters were sent and when they were received, and they would pass each other in the mail. But I've done my best to kind of put this information and these letters in a sequence that will make sense. Professor Smith at this time was hundreds of miles away in a home him and his wife owned in Nizhna, and he wouldn't receive the letter until January 3rd. Upon receiving this letter, Smith immediately recognized the specimen as something special. So he sent out a telegram which said, "Most important, preserved skeleton and gills of fish described." Afterwards, he wrote a letter in which he apologized for replying so late, and requesting that Marjorie preserve the gills and viscera of the specimen, since they were most important. He also stated that the drawing and description of the fish that Marjorie had provided resembled forms which had been extinct for many a long year, but he was hesitant to commit to that theory. The next day, on the 4th of January, after a restless night, Smith put in a call to the East London Museum. When he finally got a hold of Marjorie, she confirmed his worst fears. Marjorie had taken the specimen to the East London Museum's taxidermist to preserve the fish, but the insides had been spoiled and thrown out. Smith offered to go to where the town dumped its garbage and to search through it himself, but the town dumped its trash at sea. During this time, Marjorie also sent a letter to Smith providing a little more of a description of the specimen. She said the fish didn't have a skeleton. The backbone was a column of soft white gristle-like material running from skull to tail. This was an inch across. She also mentioned that the backbone was filled with oil, as was the skin. Marjorie continued, stating the scales were armor-like and the skull was in the skin. In Smith's next letter to Marjorie, dated the 9th of January, he expressed some of his concerns. He said the fish was causing him much worry and sleepless nights. I cannot help but mourn that the soft parts of the fish were not preserved, even had they been almost putrid. I am sorry to say that I think their loss represents one of the greatest tragedies of zoology. This sounds pretty dramatic, and you may be wondering why Smith had such a strong reaction to these events. Well, this is explained as he continues. I am more than ever convinced on reflection that your fish is almost certainly a crossopterygian, a lobed fin fish, allied with forms that flourished in the early Mesozoic or earlier, but which have been extinct for many millions of years. Your fish has the general external features of a coelacanthid, fishes common in early times in northern Europe and America. From this letter, it is evident that J.B.L. Smith knew from very early on that this specimen was something extraordinary and that its discovery would change the world of zoology. In fact, in his next letter to Marjorie, dated the 24th of January, Smith reaffirmed this belief. He also asked for photographs of the fish and if the specimen had been alive when it was caught. These questions were answered in Marjorie's next 2 letters, one of which was sent on the 25th of January, one day after Smith's. The other was sent on the 1st of February. Bad luck seems to have dogged the fish. I went down to ask Mr. Kirsten, whom I got to take photographs of the fish and flesh today, and he tells me the entire film was spoilt. When I went down to fetch the specimen, I was told it had been alive. Marjorie also sent with the latter letter, there are so many tongue twisters here. Marjorie also sent with the latter letter 3 scales from the specimen, which she described as each one fitting into a socket twice its depth. These scales were the things that cemented in Smith's mind that this specimen was indeed a coelacanth. Yet there was a part of him that still couldn't believe that it was possible. In one final letter, dated the 7th of February, which was the day that Smith received the scales, he said, "The scales leave little doubt about the nature of the fish, but even so, my mind still refuses to grasp this tremendous impossibility." Smith and his wife, who were still on holiday at Nisna, left a week earlier than they had planned so that Smith could see the specimen for himself. Upon arrival in East London on the 16th of February, after having been delayed by heavy rains, Smith made his way directly to the museum. Nearly 2 months after the fish had been caught, Smith laid eyes on it for the first time. About this experience, Smith would later write, "Although I had come prepared, that first sight of the fish hit me like a white-hot blast and made me feel shaky. I stood as if stricken to stone. Yes, there was not a shadow of doubt. Scale by scale, bone by bone, fin by fin, it was a true coelacanth." When the discovery was officially announced, Smith gave it the scientific name Latimeria chalumnae, named after Marjorie. After these events, Smith began his search for a second specimen, even eventually offering a reward to anyone who could capture one. It wasn't until the 20th of December, 1952, almost exactly 14 years after the original coelacanth, that a second specimen was caught off the coast of Anjona in the Corones by a fisherman called Ahmed Housian. Word was sent to Smith, who received the news on the 24th of December. He was unable to charter a plane, and on Christmas Day, he was somehow able to convince the Prime Minister of South Africa, D.F. Malan, to send a military aircraft to fly him to pick up the specimen. Not only that, but the aircraft was somehow able to convince Mozambican authorities to not only allow them to pick up the fish, but also to refuel, which would have been an interesting conversation to be a part of. Just this military aircraft requesting to come into your airspace. And it's like, our purpose here is to pick up a fish. A fish. Yeah. Regardless, this time the specimen was well preserved, and Smith was able to truly study and describe the fish. This discovery was like seeing a fossil come to life, a living fossil. And as Smith predicted, this discovery was indeed a real zoological sensation. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. It really means a lot. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps with growth as a channel starting out, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks again for watching. Remember, be kind, be respectful, and I'll see you next time.